Good evening, and I'm very happy today to welcome actor and producer Bruce Busta Soscia, talking to us from the United States. How are you, Bruce? Good evening. How's everything?
Good evening. Thank you for the introduction. I'm very well, thank you.
I know you are having a new television series called Cougar,
Correct.
but congratulations, by the way. You have very wonderful cast along with you.
Thank you.
And before we talked about it, for people tuning in, let us hear a little bit about your early life. I knew you lived before between New York and Boston, correct?
Yeah, I
And
grew up there. Yeah, in between.
yeah, and tell us a little bit about your early life. How did you venture into show business and sports?
Sure. So I grew up in the smallest state in the United States. It's called Rhode Island. And
Yes.
yes, it's in between New York and Boston. So it's on the northeast coast. I grew up with a large family. And, I've always been a guy who works hard. I had jobs at a very young age. As you know, when you come from a large family, you kind of got to get out there and make it happen for yourself.
Hmm.
And it was where I come from, it's cold in the winters and hot in the summers. We have all four seasons, so it's pretty interesting because nowadays I live in South Florida, which is the bottom of the United States, close to Miami, and it's hot
Yes.
all the time. It's much different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And how did you start to venture into show business?
Sure. So I'm 48 years old now, but when I was
Yes.
about 40,
Yes.
I had owned a bunch of men's barbershops, and I was always somewhat of a business entrepreneur. And I kind of wanted a change of pace. I didn't grow up with acting. I really didn't have any aspirations of the entertainment business, believe it or not. And my fiance, she had told me, look, there's a new casting call for a Mark Wahlberg movie in the Boston, Massachusetts, and it was about an hour, from my home. And I said, man, I don't want to go to that. I don't know anything about acting, and but it was ironic. They were looking for New England tough guys with beards and tattoos and muscles and blue collar guys for this particular movie. And I guess I met a lot of the requirements, and she encouraged me, you've been saying you want to try something new. Why don't you just go and see what happens? So that's kind of how it started. I begrudgingly went, and ultimately I was picked and I was cast, and I did a Mark Wahlberg movie. And very soon I realized how exciting, and fun the creative process was to be a performer, be an actor. So I immediately enrolled into acting classes and acting school. And I had the most wonderful, amazing acting coach, Rachel Bailett from the Lee Strasberg Film Institute in Hollywood, California. So I learned right away the value of training and studying, acting strategies and methods, and basically just jumped on the rocket ship. And I've had a lot of success very quickly, and I've been very, very blessed with my acting career to date.
Mhm. This is great. And right now, I'm nearly same generation as you. I'm 53 right now.
Wow.
And growing up, we used to watch in the 70s tough guys, like Charles Bronson.
Oh yeah.
And my uncle was a fan, so every time we used to go to see his films, in the 70s, then came Stallone and Schwarzenegger and Bruce Willis, and tell me right now about casting a role for yourself, like a tough guy like that. Right now, and since you studied acting as well with one of the teachers of the actor studio, right now, according to the script you play or you receive, the tough man, the muscle man, or the mob man, is it typecasted right now, one dimensional, or right now it is has been ameliorated? I mean, how these roles are written and performed on the screen.
So to answer your question, I do get a lot of alpha male, tough guy,
Mm-hmm.
strongman roles. Of course, I mean, as you know, in acting, most of the time, when they're casting a film or a TV series, they're looking for a particular look and style and sound for that particular character. So I wouldn't consider it so much a negative thing to be typecast or stereotype. I think it's actually a gift because there's always an antagonist in every story. There's a bad guy, there's a villain, there's, which usually is a tough guy or someone who can portray, those qualities. So it's a gift in terms of there's a lot of work for me. So my phone rings, my emails ring all the time, and it's I'm very fortunate that most guys that look like me are not necessarily actors. They're mostly, I make a joke all the time, guys that look like me are on a construction site and
Mm-hmm.
they're not in the acting studio and learning and training to be a performer. So for me, it is a gift, it's a blessing. And one of my mentors is Armand Asante, very
Sure.
well-known international actor. And
Mm-hmm.
spent a lot of time with him. And he told me early on, he said, man, just figure out what you're good at and just hone in on that so that when Hollywood is looking for that role, then you're on that short list and you'll always be considered. And I took his words to heart because he's had an amazing career. And
Sure.
amongst, him and so many other accomplished actors that I've been fortunate to spend time with, they kind of said the same thing. Don't listen to people when they say that it's a bad thing to be typecast. Take that to the bank. And I've done that. It's been it's been a joy, the journey so
Mm-hmm.
far with such big names like Rob Lowe, Adrian Brody. I have a movie coming out in October with Liam Neeson. I
Great.
Oh yeah, I've been on set with so many big names, accomplished actors, and I've been overjoyed at these experiences because in this business it's very competitive. Myself, I tend to look at myself in the mirror every day and just try to be a better version of me every day than I was yesterday. I don't compete with other actors, and I actually cheer for guys that have a similar stature or a similar resume as I do, because it's when I see good work I appreciate it. I didn't even realize how much of an artist was living inside of me until I found this path about
Yes.
8 years ago, and now it's wonderful. It's a wonderful joy. It's brought the best out of me in so many different scenarios, and it's really a good thing for me. It's been very therapeutic, if you will.
Sure. Armand Asante as well is a great actor. I remember his first film he did, I think, was Stallone in the 70s called Paradise Alley. He played his brother, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, they
And
go
then
good.
he did, yes, and he did I, the Jury in the 80s
Yeah.
and Mambo Kings with
Yeah.
Banderas, Antonio Banderas.
Right.
You know, so he has very versatile roles. I mean, action, comedy, romantic.
Sure.
Speaking of romantic, if somebody approach you of playing a romantic comedy or a romantic film, old-fashioned one, would you like to do it?
I mean, I guess it depends on the depth.
Yes.
I don't know for myself if I would want to entertain like a super intimate romantic role. It's not really
Mm-hmm.
my
Mm-hmm.
wheelhouse. Not something that I would, enjoy or look forward to. Maybe when I was younger, but for now,
Mm-hmm.
I really do enjoy, like, I perform my own stunts. I do a lot of fight
Yes.
scenes, and I'm not a kid anymore, but I still have, I'm a strong guy. I work out every day, and I like to do fight scenes. I like to shoot guns and action movies. And you were asking me before if, I only do the one trick pony, if I'm only doing those tough guy roles. And no, I've done many variations of an alpha male where I might be comedic and funny,
Mm-hmm.
and then some I'm very intense and villainous. And I enjoy giving those different varieties of the bad guy or the villain. But
Mm-hmm.
the romantic roles, not so much. It doesn't really excite me. I feel like I save that for my personal life.
Yes. Speaking about doing stunts and keeping it in shape, do you have a certain routine you do every day, for your training? Because it's part as
Sure.
well of your career. Yeah, yes, you can share it with us as well, and so can young men can have a little
Sure.
bit of your experience. Yes.
So I've definitely worked different fitness journeys along my way. I've been a boxer, bodybuilder. I've played numerous sports. I've mostly done a lot of weightlifting, weight training, and strength and endurance training through the years. Right now, most recently,
mhm,
as I'm getting older, I'm getting a little thicker, and
mhm,
not as easy to shed the weight when I want to look lean. But this particular last 6 months, I've been doing a program where I do a lot of intermittent fasting. A
mhm,
lot of times I wake up and I'll have my coffee and a protein shake. Before I was
mhm,
doing it with not just water all day long, and then maybe have one good, well-rounded, satisfying meal towards dinner time, and I found some results in that, but I also felt depleted at times. And
mhm,
because of weight training 3 times a week, actually right now I'm doing 4 times a week. I'm lifting weights with a trainer in a weightlifting gym. But I'm getting up every morning. I have 3 drinks. I have a coffee, I have a
mhm,
bottle of water, and I have a protein shake, and it's an isolated whey protein. So the reason I'm doing that is because the rest of the day I'm just drinking water, and until I get to around 5 or 6 o'clock, and then I'll have a meal where something more satisfying. And what I found by that strategy, I'm not hungry during the day. I'm drinking a lot of water. If I feel my blood sugar drop a little bit, I might have a little snack, but most of the time I don't. I usually drink enough water and take some protein shakes if I need it, and then one good meal. But I'm weight training about 4 times a week. I'm 48 years old. I'm not old, but I'm not young. I'm kind of
mhm.
getting closer to 50, so I'm realizing a lot of my friends have given up, and they're not, weight training, they're not lifting weights, they're not worried about their fitness anymore, and their health is deteriorating. So for
Yes.
me, I realized not just to look good aesthetically on film, but I have a young, beautiful bride to be. I have a
Mhm.
fiance that I have to keep up with. So that also keeps me young, and gives me the motivation to make sure that I'm working out and keeping my body looking good.
Yes, great. And speaking of motivation, I've seen that you started your own production house, right?
That's right. That's correct.
Soscia Film Production.
Yes,
And tell me, when do you started to think about it, and what kind of project you'd like to present?
sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I first got into the acting, it was more like so much excitement, so much passion that I still have to this day. But because I pride myself on being a businessman, a successful businessman, and as an entrepreneur, I've had multiple different business ventures through the years that I have found, pride, joy, success. And at first, I didn't really want to get on the other side of the camera. I didn't want to be on the business side because I felt like it would take away my joy from my performance, and from being an actor, because I find so much joy on the performance side. But as time progressed, I became more and more seduced and enticed to learn more about monetizing film. How do I make money? How do these folks do it? And I realized I saw a lot of people making TV shows and films that weren't making money, that were failing. And I realized there was so many people making movies just for the sake of doing it. And that's fine, as long as that your expectation is, maybe you go in a film festival, you win an award, and that's great if that's what you want to do. And then some people say, oh, I'm going to make money with this film, but they don't really know, they haven't educated themselves on how to do that, how to accomplish that end game goal. And I've seen so many people with disappointing outcomes, where maybe they have a half decent film and had a couple of good cast members and shot it with a good camera and all those things, and they thought that was enough, and they just couldn't find an outlet to make money on the film. So I started about 2 years ago. I started to really pay attention to, how does that work? And like any business in my life, I try to find a mentor or multiple mentors, folks that have had actual success in that space. And I've been very fortunate as of recent.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten closer with a gentleman who lives in Hollywood, Los Angeles, California, and he's been out there probably about 15 years and learning the business from all different angles. He's not an actor. So one of the reasons I really have grown to love him is because he's not an actor. So he enjoys my passion for acting, and I've done performed in movies for him, with him as the director. But he's actually taken a liking to me, and he saw how inquisitive I was. How does it work? How do you actually make movie? How can you accomplish this? And he's taken a liking to me, where we sat down and day after day, week after week, whether we're across the country from each other, or I was just in Los Angeles last week, we spend a lot of hours where he's mentoring and teaching me the business side and how to actually monetize, and the values of certain aspects of production that turn into money or not, or the mistakes or the pitfalls to avoid, which most filmmakers end up with a disappointment. So I feel very strong now. My thought process has evolved and changed to, I'm kind of wearing both hats now. I take the movies where they want me to act and perform, and I'm so excited, and I give my all to those performances. And then also I have a lot of opportunity right now to produce film, like the TV show that you mentioned earlier. I just came back from the mountains in Northern California. I flew into LA and drove a few hours into the mountains, and we had an unbelievable cast and crew to put this pilot together. It's called Cougar. Now, I'll tell you the interesting backstory is that I performed in a movie last year called Winterset. Winterset was just seen at the Cannes Film Festival in France on the sales floor, and we're taking a lot of bids on selling the movie, but we decided to do something a little better. We went out and made a backstory or a prequel to the film, and the characters were so interesting in the film that we knew that if we created this backstory, that we could pitch the TV pilot to one of the major networks. And man, I'll tell you, there's been a lot of interest, because not only do we have an unbelievable ensemble cast of notable names. I mean, one of the guys has been Lachlan Monroe. He's been in so many amazing blockbuster films in the last 30 years that most people, as soon as they see his name, they go, I know that guy. I know who he is. He was one of our leads. And then all the way down to Will Roberts. He was just an Oppenheimer award-winning film. He's like a professional cowboy. That actually, the secret is he grew up in the south side of Chicago. He's not really a cowboy, but he's become one, and he does rodeo tricks and all these cool things. And he's been in a ton of great movies. Todd Jenkins, he's got over 400 film credits. He's been in some notable films on television.
You have James Russo as well, a great guy as well. He played a lot of role. I remember all his films in the last 40
he was in
years.
Donnie Brasco. He was one
Yes,
of Johnny Depp, in the movie with Johnny Depp and all those guys.
yes.
And believe it or not, James Russo played my father in one of the movies that I was a co-lead in, called Mob King. So him and I have experience working together as father and son on film sets. So I'm a little biased. I have a beautiful relationship with him. He's a great actor, very, very, notable, very known in the business. He was just in that movie Horizon that just came out in the theaters, and now I believe it's on Netflix.
Yes,
but
Kevin Costner.
yes, he's very, very talented. So, Bianca Wallace, she's another woman that was actress that was in our film, and she was amazing. She played the love interest. So what's going to happen is we have already some inside lines with some pretty notable production streaming platforms rather, that really took an interest, and they can't wait to see what we just filmed. So instead of us selling our feature film, we're going to package it up with a show order. Let's try to get a TV series with these interesting characters in big casts. So we're on to something big, and we've got some really great feedback from the powers that be. Everybody wants to see this modern middle America kind of Western-ish genre. It's like the blue collar, everyday storylines of like the farm hands and the cattle and the, essentially cowboys, which is a far cry from where I grew up. I grew up in the city in the Northeast. So, it is kind of funny seeing me even on set as the executive producer. I'm like a fish out of water. You take this city slicker and put him out in the woods. And I don't know, it sounds like you're a movie aficionado. Do you remember the movie My Cousin Vinny?
Sure, with Joe Pesci and
Right.
Marissa Tomei. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's me. When I do these movies, I'm My Cousin Vinny. I'm a little bigger and taller and stronger, but it's a common theme that to see
Yeah,
me in that environment, it's kind of funny because the first time the other day I put on a cowboy hat and I said, "Wow, I think I
yes,
can pull this off." So you
yes,
might
yeah,
you might see something interesting out of me in the coming months. Um,
sure.
you know.
Yeah, yeah, this is great. And tell me, Bruce, because we spoke about a lot of things about your career, do you have a certain, I mean, message you like to convey with your fans, with aspiring filmmakers right now, based on your experience in the entertainment industry? And right now you have your own production company, so I think you will be more in control of selection your upcoming project as well.
Yeah. So the common theme that I've grown to convey is that one, believe in yourself. Two, don't quit your day job. Keep a healthy balance. Have
Hmm.
realistic expectations. Don't. I just got off the phone earlier with an actor that I said, they were contemplating, should I move to another market and try to find more film and all that. And my thing is always, if you're going to pursue the entertainment business, do it with passion. Do it for the passion.
Hmm.
My first agent I have, and I still have in my corner, Andrew Wilson Agency out of Boston. Early on, I was so pumped up and so excited. I'm doing these films and I have an agent, and I kept telling him, man, I'm going to be your number one client. I'm going to be the biggest movie star and biggest actor you ever had. And
Hmm.
I believe in myself, and it's okay to be confident. And he gave me a rebuttal one time. He says, maybe you should focus on enjoying the journey instead of trying to be a movie star. And he said, maybe
Hmm.
you should focus on creating art and doing it for the love instead of trying to be famous. And I said, wow. At first, I thought it was a negative thing that he was saying. I thought he was like
Hmm.
cutting my confidence down. And it took me a while to absorb and really understand what he meant. And it didn't take me that long, but for a little while, I was a little offended. And then over the course of time, I understood what he said, because now I can honestly say I prioritize my traditional income streams and I take my performance opportunities as a gift and a blessing. And every time I have the chance to perform, I put my all into it, whether it's a big budget, a small budget, it doesn't matter to me. I take the money and put it aside. And I recognize and I realize that it's such a joy to create a character, to be a part of a story, to have the opportunity for me to entertain the masses. People tune in on Netflix or NBC or any of these channels, and you could see my face, my image, my character, and I find joy in that. And people enjoy the characters that I play. So my advice to a young person aspiring to be an entertainer: make sure you have a solid baseline income first, and take the acting second. And as it grows and as you grow, sure, if your end goal is to be a full-time working actor all the time, you can achieve those goals. You hang around long enough, it's going to happen. And as
Hmm.
long as you're constantly becoming better version of yourself, growing and doing your best, you will eventually succeed in that goal in any industry, not just in performing and entertainment. But that's my advice. I feel like in the last couple of years, I took the pressure off myself by balancing my focus, making sure I take the time with my family, making sure I take the time with my traditional businesses. And then when I get the calls, instead of me kind of like trying to hone in on every single movie that I hear about, a TV show, I got to try to get in that. I was putting so much pressure on myself, and it was taking the joy out of it. And now I've refocused. And when I do get the calls and the emails, I'm excited and I can't wait to perform.
Great. Bruce, I want to thank you very, very much for this live, and I wish you all the best with the production of the pilot. And once you have the trailer, please send it to me.
Sure.
And I would be very happy to receive you and the cast as well once you would be able to make some interviews with
Thank you.
yourself and the rest of the cast. And last but not least, I want to thank very much Adrian Mazzoni from Transmedia Group, who
Wonderful.
connected us as well for her work on sending these beautiful press releases about your work and your company and Cougar. Wish you all the best in the shooting. Okay.
Thank you so
And
much.
say hi to James Rousseau from my side as well.
God bless.
Uh, tell him I remember the Blue Iguana as well. You know, one of his early roles in the 80s. You
Going
know,
back.
yeah, yeah. And thank you again for coming to the live.
Thank
And I
you.
look forward to hear about your new projects and latest news.
Sounds great. Enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a beautiful afternoon. Thank
You
you.
as well. Ciao.
Take care. Ciao. Bye bye.